The red water moved fast, too fast. HFY Park stood at the edge of the Crimson Canyon, watching the two rivers crash together in a violent dance. The water looked like blood because of the iron in the rocks. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. She knelt down and filled another sample bottle. This was her job. Study the water. Study the plants. Study everything on this strange planet called Kepler 442b. It was quiet work, simple work. She liked it that way. The research station sat on the cliff above her, a small metal building that housed 12 humans. They were scientists, all of them. Earth was far away, so far that messages took weeks to arrive. Out here, they were alone with the wind and the red rivers and the endless sky, but not today. Today they had visitors. The Vethril had arrived 3 days ago. HFY had seen them from a distance. They were huge, 8 feet tall with black scales that seemed to drink the light. Their claws could tear through steel. Their teeth were made for killing. Back on their homeworld, they were the top predators. Nothing hunted them. They hunted everything else. The humans tried to be calm around them, professional. But HFY saw the fear in her colleagues' eyes. The Vethril were not cruel, but they were dangerous. One wrong move, one misunderstood gesture, and someone could die. HFY heard voices upstream. She looked up and saw the Vethril delegation walking along the canyon rim. 3 adults and 1 small figure. The little one was running ahead, excited. His parents called to him in their clicking, growling language. He didn't listen. Children are the same everywhere, HFY thought with a smile. Even alien children don't like to listen. She turned back to her work. The rain had been heavy this week. The rivers were higher than normal. More dangerous. She made a note in her tablet about the water flow rate. Then she heard the scream. It was high-pitched and terrified, not a human sound. HFY's head snapped up. The small Vethril was gone from the canyon rim. The adults were running, their massive bodies moving with shocking speed. They were roaring, making sounds that made HFY's bones shake. She saw movement in the water, something dark and small tumbling in the rapids. The current was pulling it downstream, fast, too fast. The cub HFY didn't think. Her body moved before her brain caught up. She dropped her tablet and ran toward the water. Behind her, she heard shouting. Human voices this time. Her friends were yelling at her to stop, to wait, to not be stupid. She didn't stop. The water was ice cold when she hit it. The current grabbed her immediately, like giant hands pulling her under. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't see. The world was red water and roaring noise and her lungs burning for air. She broke the surface, gasping. Where was he? There, 20 meters ahead, a small dark shape going under again. HFY kicked hard, using the current instead of fighting it. Her father had taught her to swim in the ocean back in Korea. He always said the water wasn't your enemy. You had to work with it, not against it. She angled herself toward the cub. Closer, closer. Her hand reached out and grabbed something solid. Scale. She had him. The cub panicked. His claws raked across her arm, tearing through her uniform and into her flesh. The pain was white-hot and immediate. Blood mixed with the river water. But she didn't let go. She couldn't let go. He was heavy. So heavy and strong even in his panic. He was fighting her, fighting the water, fighting everything. His head went under again, and this time he didn't come up. No. HFY dove under, still holding him. She could barely see in the murky red water. She wrapped both arms around his body and kicked toward the surface. Her lungs were screaming. Her injured arm was on fire. But she kicked harder. They broke the surface together. The cub wasn't moving now. His eyes were closed. HFY saw a sandbar ahead. She remembered it from her surveys. If she could just reach it. She angled again, using every trick her father taught her. The current was so strong. So angry, but she was stubborn. Her mother always said she was too stubborn for her own good. The sandbar came fast. Too fast, they hit it hard. HFY felt something in her shoulder pop and tear. The pain made her vision go white. She heard herself scream, but it sounded far away. She dragged the cub onto the sand. He still wasn't breathing. His scales were cold under her hands, CPR. She had to do CPR, but he wasn't human. What if she hurt him? What if his body was different inside? What if she pressed too hard and broke something? She pushed the fear away. Not breathing meant dying. That was the same for every living thing. HFY tilted his head back. His mouth was full of sharp teeth, but she didn't care. She breathed into his mouth once, twice, then she put her hands on his chest. She could only use one arm. The other hung useless at her side. She pressed down, 1, 2, 3. She counted in her head, trying to remember the rhythm, trying not to think about how young he was. How small, please breathe. Nothing. She breathed for him again. More compressions. Her good arm was shaking now. She was so tired, so cold. But she kept going. The cub jerked. He coughed. Water poured from his mouth. Then he was gasping, sucking in air with horrible choking sounds. But he was breathing. He was alive. Ji-Hai collapsed beside him, her own breathing ragged. The world was spinning. She was bleeding badly from her arm. Her shoulder was wrong, twisted in a way that made her stomach turn. But the cub was breathing. That was all that mattered. She heard crashing sounds, heavy footsteps. The Vethral adults had reached them. They must have run along the canyon following the river. Ji-Hai tried to sit up, but her body wouldn't cooperate. 3 massive shapes loomed over her. For a moment she thought they might kill her. She had touched their child. She had put her mouth on him. Maybe that was forbidden. Maybe she had broken some rule she didn't understand. The largest Vethral, the male, knelt down. He was so big that even kneeling he was taller than Ji-Hai sitting. His claws could tear her apart. His teeth could crush her skull. She waited, too tired to be afraid anymore. He reached out one massive hand. Ji-Hai closed her eyes. The touch was gentle, careful. He lifted her injured arm and examined the wounds his son had made. Then he looked at her shoulder, his golden eyes seeing everything. The female pushed past him. She scooped up the cub in her arms, holding him close. She was making sounds, soft clicking sounds that might have been crying. The cub responded weakly, his small voice answering hers. More humans arrived. Captain Tae-sung and Bora and Ha-jun, all running down the canyon path. They stopped when they saw the scene. 3 giant aliens and 1 bleeding human and 1 small cub who should have been dead. Nobody spoke. The only sounds were the river and the cub's breathing and Ji-Hai's heart pounding in her ears. Finally, the male Vethral spoke. His voice was deep and rough, like grinding stones. He was speaking in Galactic Standard, the language all species use to communicate. "You saved him," he said. Ji-Hai nodded. She couldn't find words. Why? It seemed like a strange question. Why? Because he was drowning. Because he was a child. Because she could swim and he couldn't. He needed help, she said simply. The male stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something Ji-Hai never expected. He bowed his head. It was a small movement, but from a Vethral warrior it meant everything. The female was still holding her son, but she looked at Ji-Hai now. Her golden eyes were wet. Can Vethral cry? Ji-Hai wondered. She didn't know. She had studied their biology, but she had never studied their hearts. "You are bleeding," the female said. "Because of my son." Because he was afraid. "It's okay," Ji-Hai said. Her voice sounded weak. He was scared. "I understand." Captain Tae-sung finally moved. He rushed forward with the medical kit. Bora came too, her hands shaking as she helped. They worked quickly, wrapping Ji-Hai's arm, stabilizing her shoulder. The Vethral watched everything in silence. The cub lifted his head. He looked at Ji-Hai with eyes too old for his young face. He had almost died today. He would remember this forever. They both would. He made a sound. A small clicking sound his mother translated. "He says thank you." He says you are brave. Ji-Hai smiled despite the pain. "Tell him he's brave too," she said. "Very brave." Ji-Hai woke up to find a small monster sitting beside her bed. For a moment, her brain couldn't make sense of it. She was in the medical bay. The lights were low. Her shoulder was wrapped tight and her arm was bandaged. Everything hurt. And there, sitting in a chair that was much too big for him, was Krathvar. The cub looked at her with golden eyes. He didn't move. He just watched her breathe, as if making sure she was still alive. "Hello?" Ji-Hai said. Her voice was rough. How long had she been asleep? The cub made a clicking sound. Happy. He stood up and came closer to the bed. He was careful not to bump her injured side. The door opened. Bora came in carrying a medical scanner. She stopped when she saw Ji-Hai was awake. Then she smiled, relief flooding her face. "You're awake. Thank God. You've been out for 6 hours. 6 hours?" Ji-Hai tried to sit up, but Bora gently pushed her back down. "You dislocated your shoulder, tore some muscles, lost a fair amount of blood. The captain wanted to put you in stasis and send you back to Earth, but the Vethral asked us to wait. they said. They said they needed to speak with you first. Jihi looked at Krathvar. The cub was still watching her. Has he been here the whole time? Bora nodded. His parents tried to take him away. He refused. He planted himself in that chair and wouldn't move. I think he was making sure you didn't disappear. Something warm spread through Jihai's chest. She reached out her good hand toward Krathvar. He moved closer and very gently touched her fingers with his claws. His scales were warm now. Not cold like they had been on the sandbar. I'm okay, she told him. See? I'm okay. The cub made more clicking sounds. He sounded relieved. The door opened again. This time, it was the female Vethril, Velshara. She had to duck to get through the doorway. Behind her came her mate, Rekthar, and an older Vethral that Jihai didn't recognize. The room suddenly felt very small. Velshara spoke first. Her galactic standard was perfect, much better than Jihai's. You are awake. That is good. We were concerned. I'm fine, Jihai said. How is Krathvar? Is he okay? Rekthar made a sound that might have been surprise. You ask about our son? When you are injured? Of course. I wanted to make sure he was all right. He swallowed a lot of water. The three adult Vethril looked at each other. Some silent conversation passed between them. Finally, Velshara spoke again. Dr. Park. What you did today. Do you understand what it means to us? Jihai wasn't sure how to answer. I helped someone who needed help. You risked your life, Rekthar said. His voice was hard to read. Was he angry, grateful, both? You jumped into dangerous water. You could have died. Why would you do this for a Vethril child? We are not your people. Jihai thought about this. How could she explain something that felt so simple? He's a child. That's enough. The old Vethril stepped forward. He had scars on his scales, old marks from old battles. When he spoke, his voice was surprisingly gentle. I am Thexnal. I am an elder of our people. I have lived many cycles and seen many things, but I have never seen what you did today. He moved to stand beside the bed. In our culture, there is a concept called Korveth. It means life debt. When someone saves a life, a bond is created. This bond cannot be broken. It cannot be paid back. It can only be honored. Jihi felt her stomach tighten. A bond. She hadn't thought about bonds or debts. She had just acted. Velshara continued the explanation. You saved my son. This means you are now part of our family, not by blood, but by action, by choice. This is a great honor, Dr. Park, but it is also a great responsibility. I don't understand, Jihai admitted. Thexanal smiled. At least, Jihai thought it was a smile. It was hard to tell with Vethril faces. It means we are bound to you now. My family, my clan. We will protect you as we protect our own. And you. You have already proven you would do the same for us. Rekthar spoke again, but this time his voice was different, softer. I must confess something. When I first came to this planet, I did not respect humans. I thought you were weak, small, prey animals playing at being civilized. Jihai didn't know what to say to that. She had known, of course. She had seen the way the Vethril looked at humans, like they were interesting but ultimately harmless. I was wrong, Rekthar said. Today I watched a human female, barely half my size, dive into water that terrified my own people. I watched you fight the current. I watched you refuse to let go even when my son injured you. I watched you breathe life back into him when I thought he was lost. He bowed his head. The same gesture he had made on the sandbar. You are not prey, Dr. Park. You are something I do not have a word for in Galactic Standard. In our language, we would call you Kethavara. It means one who acts without thinking of self, one who protects, a guardian. Tears pricked at Jihai's eyes. She blinked them away. I just did what anyone would do. No, Velshara said firmly. That is not true. Many would have hesitated. Many would have calculated the risk. Many would have called for help and waited. You did none of these things. You simply acted. Krathvar climbed onto the bed, careful of Jihai's injuries. He curled up beside her, his small body warm against her side. He made soft clicking sounds, content and safe. Bo-Ra, who had been standing quietly by the door, finally spoke. If I may ask, what happens now? With this life debt? Thexanal answered. Now we honor it. Dr. Park is under our protection. Any who harm her harm our family. Any who threaten her threaten us. And in return she has gained something precious, the trust and friendship of a Vethral family. But I didn't want anything in return, Jihai protested. We know, Velshara said. That is why you deserve it. Over the next few days, Jihai learned what it meant to have a life debt with the Vethral. Krathvar visited her every day, bringing her small gifts, smooth stones from the river, drawings he had made. Once, a flower that grew only in the canyon, which he had risked climbing down to get. His parents came too. They taught her words in their language. They shared meals with her even though Vethral food was mostly raw meat and Jihai had to politely decline most of it. They told her stories about their home world, about their culture, about what it meant to be Vethral. Captain Taesung was nervous about the whole situation. He kept waiting for something to go wrong, for the Vethral to decide they were offended somehow, for galactic politics to get complicated. This is unprecedented, he told Jihai one evening. A human and a Vethral family connected by life debt? Do you know what the council is going to say? Does it matter? Jihai asked. She was playing a game with Krathvar, trying to stack small stones without them falling over. Yes, it matters. The Vethral are one of the most powerful species in the galaxy, and now one of them owes a human a life debt. Do you understand the implications? Jihai didn't care about implications. She cared that Krathvar was alive, that his parents could hold him at night. That was enough. But Taesung was right to worry. News traveled fast in the galaxy. Within a week, every species on the Galactic Council knew about the human woman who saved a Vethral cub. The story spread like fire. Some species were impressed. Some were confused. Some were frightened. Hajun showed Jihai some of the messages. Look at this. The Insectoid Collective says your actions were illogical and potentially dangerous. The Avian Empire wants to study you. They think you have some kind of, I don't know, rescue disorder? Jihai laughed. It hurt her shoulder, but she couldn't help it. A rescue disorder? Is that really what they think? They don't understand, Bo-Ra said. She had been studying the galactic reactions with professional interest. Most species see helping outsiders as inefficient. They help their own kind. Their own families, but not strangers. And definitely not other species. That's sad, Jihai said quietly. It is, Thexanal agreed. He had been standing in the doorway, listening. But it is also why your species is so interesting. Humans help. It is what you do. It is who you are. He walked into the room, his old body moving slowly. I have studied many species, Dr. Park. I have watched civilizations rise and fall, and I have noticed something. The species that survive, that truly thrive, are not always the strongest or the smartest. They are the ones who care for each other, the ones who help. My people forgot this, he continued. We became strong, we became fierce, but we also became isolated. We protect our own, but we do not extend that protection easily. You have reminded us of something we lost. Krathvar, who had been playing nearby, came over and took Jihai's hand. He looked up at Thexanal and said something in the Vethral language. The elder smiled. He says you are his soft claw savior. He says he will be brave like you when he grows up. Jihai pulled the cub into a gentle hug. You're already brave, she whispered. So brave. The video played on screens across the galaxy. Someone had been recording, one of the Vethral delegation perhaps, or maybe a security camera from the research station. It didn't matter. What mattered was that millions of beings were now watching a small human woman throw herself into red water to save a drowning Vethral cub. The footage was grainy but clear enough. You could see Ji-Hai drop her equipment. You could see her run. You could see the moment she hit the water and disappeared beneath the surface. Then the desperate swim, the grab. The cub's claws raking her arm. The sandbar impact. The CPR. And at the end, 3 massive Vethral warriors bowing their heads to a bleeding human woman. The galaxy didn't know what to make of it. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss what they were calling the incident. Ji-Hai didn't know about this meeting. She was still on Kepler 442b, recovering from her injuries and playing stone-stacking games with Krathvar. But light years away, powerful beings were debating what her actions meant. Ambassador Chirix of the Insectoid Collective was the first to speak. He had no lips, just mandibles that clicked when he talked. His voice came from a translator device. The human acted on primitive instinct. This is clear. There was no logical analysis of the situation. No calculation of risk versus reward. She simply reacted. This is mammalian behavior, not intelligent decision-making. Several representatives nodded their various heads. This made sense to them. Humans were emotional creatures. Everyone knew this, but Dr. Quellen, an avian scientist with bright blue feathers, stood up. With respect, Ambassador, I disagree. I have been studying human behavior for 3 cycles now. What we witnessed was not mere instinct. It was something more complex. She activated a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared, spinning slowly. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Only 17 known species have evolved on planets this hostile. The gravity is high. The weather is extreme. The native fauna includes some of the most dangerous predators we have documented. More images appeared. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. Animals with claws and teeth and venom. Humans should have evolved to be solitary survivors. Aggressive. Territorial. Instead, they became the most social species we have encountered. They form bonds with everything. Other humans, animals, even plants and machines. They have a word for this. They call it empathy. Chirix clicked his mandibles. Empathy is a weakness. It makes them vulnerable to exploitation. Perhaps, Dr. Quellen said, or perhaps it is their greatest strength. Consider this. Humans survived their death world not by becoming stronger or faster, but by helping each other. They developed complex social structures. They cared for their sick and injured. They protected the weak. This behavior is so deeply rooted in their psychology that they now extend it to other species. A low growl came from the Vethral section. It was Velshera. She stood, her scales gleaming under the council lights. You speak of Dr. Park as if she is a specimen to be studied. She is not. She is the one who saved my son, and I will tell you what I saw that day. I saw courage. I saw selflessness. I saw someone choose to act when action meant risking death. The council chamber fell silent. Velshera rarely spoke at these meetings. When she did, people listened. My people are warriors. We are taught from birth to be strong, to be fierce, to never show weakness. We respect power. We respect strength. But what Dr. Park showed me was a different kind of strength. The strength to be vulnerable. The strength to care more about another life than your own. She paused, her golden eyes sweeping across the chamber. How many of you would have done what she did? How many of you would have jumped into that water? No one answered. Back on Kepler 442b, Ji-Hai knew nothing about the council debate, but she was learning that her actions had consequences. Ha-Jun burst into her room one morning, his tablet glowing with notifications. You're famous. Like galaxy famous. There are over 50 billion views of the rescue video. 50 billion? Ji-Hai felt dizzy. That's more than the population of Earth. Way more. Everyone is talking about it. And not all of it is good. He showed her the comments, thousands of them, millions. Some praised her bravery. Some called her stupid. Some were analyzing her every movement. Some were arguing about human psychology. Some were scared. One comment made her stop. It was from a representative of the crystalline dominion. Humans are dangerously unpredictable. They act on emotion rather than logic. If they will risk death for a stranger's child, what else might they do? We should be cautious about allowing further human expansion. They're afraid of us, Ji-Hai asked. Because I saved someone. Bora, who had followed Ha-Jun into the room, nodded. They're afraid of what they don't understand. Most species in the galaxy operate on clear rules. Benefit to self. Benefit to family group. Benefit to species. You broke those rules. You helped someone who wasn't human. Someone whose species has no alliance with ours. Someone who could have killed you accidentally. But he was a child, Jihai said, frustrated. Why is this so hard to understand? Because most species don't think that way, Bo-Ra explained gently. They see a Vethral cub as a future warrior. A potential threat, not a child who needs help. Captain Tae-sung came in looking tired. He had been dealing with endless messages from Earth Command. I just got off a call with the Colonial Administration. They're both proud and terrified. Proud that a human showed such courage. Terrified of the political complications. He sat down heavily. Some species are now proposing protocols for managing human emotional responses. They want to study us. Figure out how to predict when we'll do something they consider irrational. That's insulting, Ha-Jun said. It's politics, Tae-sung replied. They're trying to make sense of us. And honestly, can we blame them? From their perspective, we're these weird emotional apes from a death world who keep doing unexpected things. The door opened and Krathvar bounded in, full of energy. He didn't care about galactic politics. He just wanted to show Jihai a new drawing he had made. It showed two figures. One small human, one small Vethral. They were holding hands. Jihai felt tears in her eyes. This was what mattered, not what the galaxy thought, not the politics or the fear or the debates, just this small being who was alive because she had jumped into the water. Over the following weeks, the situation became more complex. Texnel spent hours teaching Jihai about Vethral culture. She learned their customs, their language, their history. She learned that they had once been more like humans. Long ago, before they became the galaxy's fiercest warriors, they had been communal. They had helped each other survive on their brutal homeworld. We forgot, Texnel told her one evening. They were sitting by the canyon, watching the red water flow. We became so focused on strength, on power, that we forgot the strength that comes from caring. You reminded us. Krathvar was with them, as he always was these days. He was learning English from Jihai. His accent was terrible, but his enthusiasm was boundless. Why you save me? He asked in broken English. It was a question he had asked before in his own language, but now he wanted to hear the answer in human words. Because you needed help, Jihai said simply. And I could help you. But scary. Water scary. I scary. Yes, Jihai admitted. I was scared. But being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing the right thing even when you are scared. Krathvar thought about this. Then he said something in Vethral to his grandfather. Texnel smiled. He says he wants to be brave like you. He says when he grows up, he will help people too, even if they are not Vethral. Even if he is scared, Jihai hugged the cub. You're already brave, she said. You survived the river. You're learning a new language. You're making friends with a strange alien. That takes courage. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council, the debates continued. Dr. Quellen had written a research paper titled The Rescue Impulse in Mammalian Deathworlders. It was causing quite a stir. In it, she argued that humans had developed a unique evolutionary trait. Their dangerous planet had forced them to cooperate at a level unprecedented in galactic history. They didn't just help family. They didn't just help their own species. They helped anything they perceived as needing help. Humans form emotional bonds indiscriminately, the paper stated. They have been observed bonding with pets, with robots, with vehicles, even with plants. This pack bonding behavior extends to any entity they spend time with. It is not logical. It is not efficient. But it may be the most powerful survival trait we have encountered. Some species found this fascinating. Others found it disturbing. The Crystalline Dominion representative wrote a counter paper arguing that humans were too emotional to be trusted with important decisions, that their tendency to act on impulse made them dangerous. But slowly, opinions were shifting. A video emerged of a human child rescuing an injured bird, then another of human firefighters saving animals from a burning building, then footage of human doctors working in war zones, helping anyone who needed help regardless of which side they were on. The galaxy was starting to understand. This wasn't just Jihai. This was humans. This was what they did. Velshara spoke at the council again. You fear what you do not understand. But I understand now. Humans are not weak because they care. They are strong because of it. They survived a world that should have killed them. The Vethral warship arrived without warning. It was massive, dark, and covered in weapons. It hung in the sky above Kepler 442b like a metal moon. The research station's alarms went off immediately. Captain Tae-sung ran to the command center, his heart racing. "Are they attacking?" Ha-jun asked, his face pale. "No," Tae-sung said, checking the readings. "They're just sitting there. They haven't powered up weapons. They're hailing us." He opened the communication channel. A Vethral face appeared on the screen. Not Rekthar or Velshara. This was someone new. Older. Scarred. His scales were a deeper black and his eyes held no warmth. "I am Vaxthor of the Drakthor clan. I seek the human called Jihai Park." Tae-sung felt cold. "May I ask why?" "That is between her and my clan. Send her to the landing bay. Alone." The screen went dark. Jihai was in the greenhouse when they found her. She was teaching Krathvar about earth plants. The cub was fascinated by tomatoes. He kept poking them gently with one claw. "Jihi," Tae-sung said. His voice was tight. "We have a situation." When she saw Velshara's face, Jihai knew something was very wrong. The Vethral matriarch looked angry and worried at the same time. "The Drakthor clan has challenged us," Velshara explained. "They claim that accepting Korveth from a human weakens our family. They say we have dishonored ourselves by allowing a prey species to save our son." "But that's ridiculous," Jihai said. "I didn't save Krathvar to dishonor anyone. I saved him because he was drowning." "I know," Velshara said gently. "But Vaxthor does not care about your intentions. He is using this situation for political gain. The Drakthor clan has always been rivals with my family. They see an opportunity to weaken us." Rekthar stepped forward, his expression grim. "Vaxthor has invoked the trial of honor. He claims you calculated the rescue, that you planned it to gain influence over our family. He calls you a manipulator." Jihai felt anger rise in her chest. "That's a lie. I didn't even know who Krathvar was when I jumped in. I just saw a child in danger." "We know this," Thexanol said. "He had come with them. But under Vethral law, an accusation has been made. You must defend your honor. And ours." "How?" Jihai asked, though she was afraid of the answer. "The trial of depths," Velshara said quietly. "It is an ancient test. You must descend into the water caves of our homeworld and retrieve a sacred stone. You must do this while navigating dangerous currents and avoiding the predators that live there." "But I can't go to your homeworld," Jihai said. "The gravity alone would crush me." "There is a holographic simulation," Thexanol explained. "It is used to train young warriors. It will feel real. The water will feel real. The danger will feel real. But you will not actually be on our planet. Can I refuse?" Jihai asked. Velshara's eyes were sad. "You can. But if you do, Vaxthor will claim you are a coward, that your rescue was luck, not courage. My family will lose standing. And the Korveth will be questioned by all of Vethral society." Krathvar, who had been listening quietly, suddenly spoke. His English was much better now. "No, this is wrong. You should not have to do this. You saved me. That should be enough." Jihai knelt down and took his clawed hand. "It's okay. I'll do it. If this is what I need to do to prove the truth, then I'll do it." "But you could die," Krathvar said. His voice was small and scared. "The trial of depths is dangerous, even for Vethral warriors." "I know," Jihai said. "But I can swim. And I'm stubborn." "Remember?" Captain Tae-sung tried to argue. So did Bora and Ha-jun. They said it was too dangerous. They said it was unfair. They said the Vethral trial was designed for warriors twice Jihai's size and strength. But Jihai had made up her mind. The simulation chamber was in the Vethral warship. It was a massive room filled with water and holographic projectors. Jihai stood at the edge wearing a special suit that would let her breathe underwater. But it wouldn't protect her from the cold or the simulated predators. Vaxthor stood on a platform above, looking down at her. "So the human is brave enough to face the trial. Or foolish enough. We shall see which." Other Vethral had gathered to watch. This was being broadcast across their home world. Thousands were watching, maybe millions. Jihai tried not to think about that. Thexanol approached her. "Remember, the currents in our water caves are complex. They will try to pull you off course. Trust your instincts. Use your size as an advantage. You can fit through spaces we cannot." "And the predators?" Jihi asked. "They hunt by sensing movement and fear. Stay calm, move smoothly. If you panic, they will attack." Jihi nodded. She looked up and saw her friends watching from an observation window. Tae-sung gave her a thumbs up. Bora was crying. Hajun looked like he might be sick, and there was Krathvar pressed against the glass. He was speaking to her even though she couldn't hear him. She could read his lips, though. Be brave. Be brave like you. The water began to fill the chamber. Jihai took a deep breath and dove in. The cold hit her immediately. It was worse than the river on Kepler 442b. This water felt ancient and alive. The holographic cave system stretched out before her, lit by bioluminescent fungi. It was beautiful and terrifying. She began to swim, following the markers that would lead her to the sacred stone. The current grabbed at her, trying to pull her sideways. She had to fight it constantly, using techniques her father had taught her decades ago. Something moved in the darkness ahead. Big. Jihai froze. A simulated predator swam past, its body serpentine and covered in spines. It didn't see her, or maybe it just wasn't interested yet. She kept going. The cave narrowed. Too narrow for a Vethral warrior to fit through, but Jihai could squeeze through. Her smaller size was an advantage here. She pulled herself through the gap, her suit scraping against the simulated rocks. On the other side, the current was stronger, much stronger. It slammed her against a wall. She felt the impact in her still healing shoulder. Pain shot through her body, but she kept swimming. More predators appeared. A school of them, smaller but faster. They circled her, curious. Jihai remembered Thexnel's advice. Stay calm, don't panic. She moved slowly, steadily, not making sudden movements. The predators lost interest and swam away. The cave system went deeper, darker. Jihai's muscles were screaming. She was so tired. The cold was making her movements sluggish, but she could see it now. The glow of the sacred stone nestled in an alcove ahead. She reached for it. Her fingers touched the smooth surface. Then she heard a sound. A cry for help. In Vethral, Jihai turned. Deeper in the cave, she could see a figure. A simulated Vethral warrior trapped under fallen rocks. This wasn't part of the trial description. Was it a test, a trick? The warrior called out again. Help, please, I am trapped. Jihai looked at the stone in her hand. She could take it now. Swim back, complete the trial, prove her courage, or she could help the trapped warrior. But if she put down the stone, the currents might carry it away. She might not be able to find it again. She might fail the trial. It wasn't really a choice, though. Not for Jihai. She set the stone down carefully, wedging it into a crack in the rock. Then she swam toward the trapped warrior. Above, in the observation area, the watching Vethral erupted in shocked sounds. Vaxthor's expression darkened. The fool. She's throwing away her chance at victory. But Thexenol was smiling. No, he said quietly. She is showing us who she is. Jihai reached the warrior. The rocks pinning him were heavy. She tried to lift them, but she wasn't strong enough. Think. She looked around and found a long piece of debris, a lever. Basic physics. She wedged the lever under the rocks and pushed with all her strength. The rocks shifted. The warrior pulled himself free. He stared at her with golden eyes, seemingly amazed. You saved me, he said. Why? You needed to complete the trial. You were trapped, Jihai said simply. I had to help. She turned to swim back to where she had left the stone. But the current had been working against her. The stone was gone. Jihai's heart sank. She had failed. She searched frantically, diving deeper into the caves, but the stone was nowhere to be found. Her muscles were giving out. She was so cold, so tired. She swam back toward the entrance, defeated. Above, Vaxthor looked triumphant. The human has failed. As I predicted. She is no warrior. She is barely a survivor. But Velshara stepped forward. She passed the only test that matters. She failed to retrieve the stone, Vaxthor argued. The trapped warrior was my addition to the trial, Thexnel said, his old voice carrying across the chamber. I wanted to see what she would choose. Victory or compassion? She chose compassion, just as she did when she saved my great-grandson from the river. He turned to face the other Vethral. The trial of depths is meant to test courage. But there are many kinds of courage. The courage to fight, the courage to endure, and the courage to choose others over yourself. Dr. Park has shown us the rarest kind. Rekthar spoke up. She could have completed the trial. She had the stone in her hands. But she gave up her chance at victory to help someone in need. This is not the action of a manipulator. This is the action of a hero. Jihai climbed out of the water, exhausted and shivering. She didn't know what was being said above. She only knew she had failed. But then Krathvar was there, wrapping a warm blanket around her. and Velshara was kneeling beside her, and Rekthar was looking at her with something like wonder. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so full. Representatives from every major species had gathered. The holographic displays showed the trial footage. Jihai swimming through the caves, Jihai choosing to help the trapped warrior, Jihai emerging from the water, exhausted but unbroken. Elder Thexnal stood at the center podium. His old voice was steady and strong. "I have lived for 147 cycles," he began. "I have seen empires rise and fall. I have witnessed wars and peace treaties. I have studied every species in this council, but never have I seen what I witnessed in that water." He gestured to the screen showing Jihai. This human had victory in her hands. She had proven her courage. She had won the trial. All she had to do was swim back. But she heard a cry for help. And without hesitation, she gave up everything to answer that cry. Ambassador Chirix clicked his mandibles. "With respect, Elder, this proves my point." Her decision was illogical. She sacrificed certain success for uncertain outcome. "This is inefficient behavior." "You are correct," Thexnal said. "It was illogical. It was inefficient. It was also the most noble act I have ever witnessed." He walked slowly around the chamber, making eye contact with different representatives. "We pride ourselves on being civilized. We have technology, we have laws, we have order. But somewhere along the way, many of us forgot something important. Being civilized is not about being logical. It is about being kind." Dr. Quellen stood up. "I have completed my research on human evolution. May I present my findings?" The council agreed. Quellen activated her presentation. Images of Earth appeared. Earth is one of the most hostile planets in known space. High gravity, extreme weather, deadly fauna, disease, natural disasters. By all logic, humans should have evolved to be solitary, aggressive, and territorial. They should be like the Vethril. Powerful predators focused on individual survival. New images appeared. Humans helping each other. Human children playing together. Human doctors treating patients. Human firefighters running into danger, but they did not. Instead, they became the most cooperative species we have encountered. They formed complex social bonds. They cared for their weak and injured. They developed empathy not just for their own kind, but for any being they perceive as vulnerable. She showed footage of humans with pets. Humans rescuing animals. Humans caring for plants. Humans even forming bonds with robots and AI. Humans pack bond indiscriminately. They extend family-level loyalty to anyone who needs help. This behavior seems irrational, but it is actually the reason they survived their death world. They learned that alone they would die. Together, they could thrive. A representative from the Crystalline Dominion spoke up. His voice was like chiming glass. "But this makes them dangerous, unpredictable. They act on emotion rather than calculation. How can we trust such beings?" Velshara stood. "You ask how we can trust them? I will tell you. My son was drowning. Every logical calculation said he would die. But Jihai Park did not calculate. She acted. She risked her life without thought of reward or recognition. She asked for nothing. She expected nothing. She simply saved a child because he needed saving." Her voice grew stronger, and when given a chance at glory in the trial, she chose to help instead. She chose compassion over victory. Tell me, which is more trustworthy? A being who acts only from calculated self-interest, or a being who will help you simply because you need help? Silence filled the chamber. Then slowly Chirix stood. "I must revise my assessment," he said. "While human behavior remains illogical, I see now that there is strategic value in their empathy. A species that will protect others without calculation could be valuable allies. They would not abandon us when the cost became too high. They would help simply because we needed help." It was not exactly warm praise, but coming from Chirix, it was revolutionary. On Kepler 442b, Jihai was back in the greenhouse. She didn't know about the council meeting. She was teaching Krathvar and 2 other Vethril younglings about photosynthesis. They kept trying to eat the plants, which made her laugh. Bora rushed in, her tablet glowing. "Jihi, the council just passed a resolution. They're establishing a new program. The Universal Compassion Initiative. And they want you to help lead it." "What? Me, why?" "Because you showed them something they'd never seen. They want to study human empathy, not as a weakness but as a strength. They want to learn from it. They want to teach it." Jihai sat down heavily. "I don't want to be famous. I just want to study rocks and plants. Krathvar climbed into her lap, careful of her still healing shoulder. But you can help. Like you helped me. Many people need help. Captain Taesung entered, looking tired but happy. I just got word from Earth. They're proud of you. The whole planet is. You've changed how the galaxy sees humanity. We're not just the new species anymore. We're the ones who care. But I'm just one person, Jihai protested. Any human would have done the same thing. Exactly, Thexanal said. He had been standing in the doorway. That is the point. You are not special because you are unique. You are special because you are typical. You represent what humans are. And the galaxy needs that. Over the following months, things changed. The Galactic Council established exchange programs. Human teachers went to other worlds, teaching about empathy and cooperation. Alien students came to Earth, learning about human culture and values. Jihai found herself traveling between worlds, not as a celebrity, but as a bridge. She taught xenobiology, but also something more intangible. She taught about caring, about seeing others not as aliens or threats, but as beings who deserved kindness. Krathvar grew quickly. In 2 years, he was almost as tall as his mother, but he still followed Jihai around when she visited the Vethril homeworld. He was training to be a cultural ambassador, using his unique perspective as someone saved by a human to help bridge understanding between species. Belshara and Rekthar became advocates for human-Vethril cooperation. They spoke at councils, wrote papers, and most importantly, they raised their son to see strength and compassion. Even Vaxthor changed. He never apologized directly, but he quietly supported the new initiatives. His clan began working with human rescue teams, learning how smaller, more flexible beings could navigate disasters that even Vethril warriors found challenging. One day, Jihai received a message. There had been an earthquake on a colony world. Buildings had collapsed. People were trapped. The local rescue teams were overwhelmed. They needed help. Jihai looked at Captain Taesung. We should go. I'll prep the ship, he said without hesitation. When they arrived at the disaster site, they found they weren't alone. A Vethril rescue ship was already there, and an avian medical team, and even some insectoid engineers using their precise calculations to determine the safest way to move debris. The different species worked together. Vethril warriors moved heavy rubble. Human teams crawled through small spaces to reach trapped victims. Avian doctors provided medical care. Insectoid engineers stabilized damaged structures. Jihai found herself working beside Rekthar. They were trying to reach a family trapped in a collapsed building. The space was too small for him, but too unstable for her to go alone. I will make the entrance larger, Rekthar said. You go in and bring them out. Together we can do this, Jihai nodded. Together, it took hours. The rescue was dangerous and exhausting. But they saved the family. All of them. And when they emerged, covered in dust and bleeding from small cuts, Rekthar put his massive hand on Jihai's shoulder. Thank you, he said, for teaching us what we had forgotten. That strength is not just in claws and teeth. It is in the willingness to help. You already knew that, Jihai said. You just needed to remember. That evening, as the rescue teams rested, Jihai sat with her crew. Hajun was bandaging a cut on his arm. Bora was updating the rescue logs. Taesung was coordinating with the other teams. You know, Hajun said. When I signed up for research duty, I thought I'd be spending my days in a lab. I never imagined I'd be crawling through collapsed buildings with a Vethril warrior watching my back. Life is full of surprises, Jihai said with a smile. Do you ever regret it? Bora asked. Jumping into that river? Everything that came after? Jihai thought about this. Her shoulder still ached sometimes. Her life had become more complicated than she ever wanted. She was constantly traveling, teaching, speaking at councils. She couldn't just study rocks and plants anymore, but she also thought about Krathvar, how he was alive and growing and learning to see all beings as worthy of help. She thought about the families they'd saved today. She thought about how the galaxy was slowly learning that being civilized meant being kind. No, she said, I don't regret it. I'd do it again. 6 months later, Jihai returned to Kepler 442b. She stood at the riverbank where everything had started. The water still ran red. The current was still strong, but it looked different now, less threatening, more like an old friend. Krathvar joined her. He was taller than her now, but he still called her his soft claw savior. This is where you saved me, he said. This is where we saved each other, Jihai corrected. You taught me as much as I taught you. What did I teach you? That courage can change minds. That one moment can change everything. That being different doesn't mean we can't understand each other. Krathvar looked at the water.